So my name is Derek Kerton with the Kerton Group. I run out of Silicon Valley, where we have a lot of developer community and such, a lot of active people building applications and services. And I think historically one of the problems we've seen is that there's a gap between the community, the communication of these developers, often young, often two guys in a garage, sometimes larger enterprises like 20-person deep and such. It's very difficult for them to communicate with a giant like a Telefonica, like a phone company. And that gap started over a decade ago and has been narrowing through the years ever since. I think both sides of the equation have been working more wisely, understanding more what the other side was in the game for. And certainly the carriers have, had the most distance to go and have gone the most distance in terms of understanding now that they need to work with the developers, and that they need to make the developers part of their value proposition. And so it's great to have Jose with us today, because I think Telefonica recently announced one of the most interesting programs to do that, and it's at a global level, and it's called Blue Via. So Jose, I'd like to introduce you and maybe a couple interesting opening comments on what Blue Via is, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Jose. I lead the developer platforms of Telefonica. I've been managing this for the last year, and when I took over, I realized that something wasn't flying very, very well. So we had two developer communities in the group. One was called Open Mobile Forum in Spain, and another one was called O2 Litpus in the UK. And the real traction that they had was very limited. So actually, I realized that also that was happening in other operators that have been investing heavily into engaging with developers, but nobody has been able to be successful. And that's how the concept of Blue Via came to life. And I think we're starting to make, as one of my developers, or the developers that is working with us into creating Blue Via, said to me one day, we are touching every single string that an operator can touch in order to attract developers.
So with respect to Blue Via, what have you done to actually make it go further than just the Blue Via group and right into Telefonica?
Well, actually, the first thing that we did was to really think, and we made a very thoughtful exercise of how we were going to be able to engage with developers. So the first question that we made was, do we have something that the developers may appreciate? So, because that was something that I was really questioning all the time. There's developer communities out there with exposing APIs on the network, and they don't really fly so much or so high. They can claim it, honestly, and you go and speak with the managers that are running that, and they say, no, we have 1 million invocations per day, etc. But then if you scratch a little bit, it's just a few companies. The ones that are using, and it's for end-to-end things, so it's not really developers there.
Let's take a comparison right now. So there's a lot of developer programs. Everybody wants to get developer mindshare in 2010, 2011. So LBS platforms, Navtech has a big developer program. Ericsson has a big developer program. Nokia, obviously. Google has developer tools. Apple has tools readily available. So how does a carrier developer program, and specifically Blue Via, how do you stand out and attract the eyeball and the attention of the developers away from all the competing distractions?
Well, there are a variety of approaches. There's people that is investing a lot into innovation centers, and there's people that is just creating massive campaigns, online campaigns to attract developers. Our approach is a little bit different. Okay, the reason why is because we do believe that we are not going to be able to hit with the success factor if we are not involving developers in our work. So honestly, from 1 year ago, we're working actively with developers to help us to develop Blue Via. And now what we're doing is that with those developers that we already know and that they are interested in using our APIs, we are working with them. So actually, we're not working with them. They are working with our platform, because the idea is that they don't need to see anybody of Telefonica ever. So they're working with the platform to embed it in their software already and start creating things. And what we want to do is to get these guys to get commercial traction. So we're going to help them with our marketing programs, and we have marketing budget to support them and to generate guys business successes that we can showcase.